Hi, I'm Charlotte Donlon. I am a writer, spiritual director, and host of Art and Bake Unplugged podcast and website. My first book is The Great Belonging: How Loneliness Leads Us to Each Other. And I'm doing a video series of, behind the scenes sneak peeks, not sneak peeks, just behind the scenes extra information about each chapter. And this video is on chapter 7 from The Great Belonging, and the title of this chapter is A Breakdown. This chapter was originally or came from an essay that was written for something else. It's about my first manic episode and recovery from that, and when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so this chapter is a little bit about how people with mental health issues can experience loneliness and how I've experienced loneliness in my when I haven't been healthy, and some things that help me recover from my mania and depression, and things that helps me feel less alone when I was struggling with mental health issues. So this yeah, I talk a lot about the Psalms and liturgy, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me and thank me for the way that I write about mental illness in this book, because it's not a book about mental illness. Like I've said, loneliness. I've said it many times. I think I said it in the last video for the previous chapter. Lonely or two ago. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Loneliness is not a mental illness, but mental illness can it can come with mental illness. It can be a symptom of mental illness. So I can be perfectly healthy and not be manic or depressed and have, feel lonely in some way, or I can be, manic or depressed and not feel lonely. I know a lot of people with depression struggle with loneliness. So anyway, I write about mental illness in this book, but it's not a book about mental illness. And it's just kind of a normal part of my life. So it's written about in this book as if it's a normal part of my life, because it is. And actually, Sarah Sanderson wrote a review of The Great Belonging that was published at Mockingbird over at mbird.com. And I think it's on her personal website too, which I don't know the URL, but her name is Sarah Sanderson. And in her review of the book, she wrote about the way I write about mental illness. And I just think I really appreciate her perspective on that. And she lives with bipolar disorder also. So it means a lot coming from her, because we pay attention to these things, those of us who live with mental illness. And I guess even those who don't, I wouldn't know because I'm not one of those people. It matters how we write about things and how we write about mental health and how we treat it. And I've said this many times to many people. I don't know how many times I've said it in public, but I consider it a privilege and an honor to be able to be open about living with bipolar disorder, because I know a lot of people don't have that option for whatever reason, whether it's their job or family situation or just some sort of personal situation. Like, I don't expect everyone who lives with mental illness to be open about it and honest about it and vulnerable. And it's just how I approach it. And I do consider it an honor and a privilege to be able to talk about it. And for me, it's easier to be honest and talk about it. Like, if I tried to hide it, that would just take up too much energy and probably make me crazy, like probably land me back in the inpatient psychiatric hospital. When I was first diagnosed during my huge first manic episode in 2007, everyone knew I was in the hospital. I mean, not everyone, but everyone who knew me knew I was in the hospital because I was mentally ill. And in that moment of one of the lowest points of my life, I had a choice to make. And one of the choices I could make, which is the one I made, was to be open and honest about it and not hide what had happened to me. And at that point, I didn't know how to talk about it, but I wasn't hiding it, and I didn't pretend to be what I wasn't. I didn't pretend to be healthy. I didn't pretend to not be manic until the meds worked and I was no longer manic. I didn't pretend to not be depressed. And some people moved away from me during this season, and some people moved closer toward me in this season. And I don't blame anyone. It's hard to have someone you love or a friend go through something like this. So things can change with a huge mental health crisis, and that's how it works. So anyway, this chapter 7 was about, or is about, that first manic episode and recovery. And then the next chapter, which my next video will cover, is about my second big manic episode and the depression that followed that. So thanks again for watching my behind the scenes videos for The Great Belonging. I hope they're helpful in some way and may encourage you to read my book, or maybe give it to someone who might appreciate it. You can buy The Great Belonging anywhere books are sold. And you can learn more about me and my writing and my work at charlottedonlon.com, at writinglifespiritualdirection.com, at artandfaithunplugged.com. And you can find me on social media at Charlotte Donlon on Twitter and Instagram. And you will always find the best of what I write, offer, make, and create in my book, in new books, hopefully, that will come out one day, on my websites and my podcasts and in my spiritual direction offerings. Thanks so much for watching.